singer, actress, songwriter, author of 2 New York Times best-selling children's books, philanthropist, and humanitarian. She is considered one of the world's most recognizable and beloved performers and the most successful Latin crossover artist in music history. Having sold over 100 million records worldwide, Estefan has garnered 8 Grammy Awards and an Oscar nomination for her performance of the song Music of My Heart. In 2017, she was the first Cuban-American singer-songwriter to receive the Kennedy Center Honors. On Your Feet, the Tony Award-nominated Broadway musical based on the lives and music of Emilio and Gloria Estefan has received rave reviews and nominations for Tony Awards, Outer Critics Circle Awards, Drama League Awards, and is now on tour worldwide. Estefan is also the founder of the Gloria Estefan Foundation, whose mission is to support charitable programs for disadvantaged children and empower young people through education and opportunity. Please welcome Gloria to the stage.
I know, right?
Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here with you. First of all, thank you all so much for being here. As everyone could tell from your bios, you're all just a little bit busy. So taking the time for New World Symphony and this wonderful community really means so much to us. I couldn't be more honored to moderate this incredible panel. These women are icons of culture, of empowerment, and of breaking barriers. I really wish everybody could have been on our Zoom last week to get to know each other and prepare for this. It was a solid 15 minutes of mutual fangirling. It was so inspiring to see such love and support for one another. And we were only just getting to know each other. And I really wonder if it would have been the same with a group of men. Somehow I think not. I would also like to thank the fantastic team of New World Symphony for putting this together, particularly Maureen O'Brien, who really kept us all in line. As well as Anne Drake, our esteemed gala chair. Since we only have a short time and a lot to cover, let's jump in. So to begin, and I would love to hear from each of you about this, what attracted you to music, and at what point did you identify yourself as a musician?
Ladies. Well, you know, I must say before I start that when I was asked to be on this panel, and I didn't even know Gloria was on this panel at that time. When I was asked to be on this panel, I told Howard, I have an imposter syndrome, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a businesswoman, I happen to do music, I love music, I do this, but I have a whole other life which has got nothing to do with music. And then I met them, and then I found out that Gloria was also in it, and I saw On Your Feet 3 times, went through the play. And not just that, I didn't know Tammy very well, and then sort of began to see all the wonderful work she's doing. So I truly am also, I'm quite happy to shut up and let the two of them I just clarifying where I'm coming from. I sang before I could speak. I come from a very simple, very middle-class family in India, and where power would go off all the time, and I just sang. I had 1,000 chores. I don't remember what chore I did, but I can tell you what song I sang when I did that chore. And I had a lot of chores. And I sang a lot of songs. And then I got into the business world. I was good at studies. I taught all my school stuff. And then I just studied. I just went to work and I went on from place to place to place. The music was always there. And so, long story short, the music went on for a while. My business went on for a long time. I was all over the world. I was successful in the traditional definitions of success. I made a lot of money, I was very powerful, I was flying on planes, whatever. However one defines the traditional measure of success, I had it all. My family was fine. And in 1999, I had a crisis of spirit. I basically said, I can't go on like this. What is enough? How much more do I want the next deal? I was in the middle of a very big deal, which would have given me huge money, it would have been the next rung in my company. I'd formed my own company at that time. And then I just broke down, I stopped, I couldn't do this, which is, when people have problems, you break down, but when you have a life that's going exceedingly well, to kind of come back. And so that's what started to have me explore my relationship with music. And there's a lot more I can say about it, but I decided that I would go from accidental living to intentional living, and that music would have a stage in my life, whatever I did and however I did it, because it was important for my happiness. That having been said, the biggest gift music gave me, I love singing, I still love singing, I'm composing tunes all the time in my head. And I love singing with people, I put big choirs together. But the biggest thing is music helped me find myself. And I found the deepest part of myself through music, and I live in it. I sign everything love, light, laughter, because that's what I believe music has allowed me to discover in me and live in that space. Not every day and every moment, mind you, we're human beings, we're screwed up in our own ways. But I'm screwed up much less, I sort of unscrew myself. Fairly quickly. So that's what music did for me, and I rededicated myself to service. So a lot of the work I do with universities, I was in the Lincoln Center called Sarah, and I pick and choose what I want to do, and even producing my own music is simply a gift, because I'm really focused on the higher purpose of making people happy, and I don't want it's all done for not-for-profit. I just want to serve the world. And that's my mission, and that's what I've been doing and continuing to do. And I'll stop here, and then we'll hear from the really wonderful people that are doing great things. That's amazing.
I guess I'll go next. I think I was birthed into this life. I came from a musical family, a grandmother who played banjo and fiddle and piano, and a father who sang, and cousins and uncles and aunts who served the community as musicians in church and throughout the community. And so music has always been a part of my consciousness. I sang my first solo in church at the age of 4. I started piano at the age of 4. It was chosen for me. It was not something that I chose for myself. My parents decided as the oldest child I would play the piano and carry on. And so, I really feel like I was birthed into it, but I was nurtured by such a community of women, especially in the public school music system. And so it was not abnormal for me when I got ready to go to college to consider a career in music. But my identity wasn't fully shaped, because like many people, when you engage in study, you have that part of that music that's part of you that's personal. And for me, that was always gospel, it was always blues, it was always soul music. But I was studying classical music, and it resonated with me, but not in the same way. But I did the thing that we oftentimes do when we're young people and we don't really have a sense that we think these things sound good. I was like, I'm gonna be a concert pianist. Yeah. and my first week of undergrad, the teacher, the studio teacher at the time, was telling me all the reasons why I wouldn't. My hands were too small. I didn't play the right notes. I couldn't play the standard repertoire. So I became very discouraged, and I changed my major 3 times the first semester. I went to chemistry because I made an A in chemistry in high school, and I figured I liked it. And then after 2 weeks of that, I was like, I'm going to kill somebody or kill myself. So I'm going to just go back to the music department and pray and hope they'll take me back. And I shifted to music education, and I found myself again. I found myself. And then I discovered musicology, and I was like, why am I sitting in classrooms And I went to a historical black college that taught no black composers and very few women composers. And I understand that now, because part of the history of those institutions were to prepare people like me to be in places like this. And so there was a focus on the Western European, because they understood that they were training people who had been marginalized from spaces to be in those spaces. And I kept questioning, why are there no discussions about women? Why are there no discussions about this rich musical heritage that I know about? And I set out on a different course and went to graduate school and did all of that. But from the very beginning, saw that I was called to tell these different stories and to reclaim from the margins people who had been pushed in the margins. And so I really feel like not only was I birthed, but I was called and destined to do things, because I was first generation college student. And doors just kept opening and opening. And when you don't have to work at something, you know that you're destined to do it. When you know that the opportunities and access come without you manipulating, you are destined to do it. And so what I had to do was to learn how to resist the need to plan and make, be disciplined and trained and do what I needed to do, but also to understand that there was a path that was ordered for me and to operate in that path. And that path has brought me in some ways to New World Symphony, and to be able to take what I was doing in writing and teaching to another level in terms of curating, to make sure that these voices are illuminated and heard. And so I was born.
I know you really would have been successful in anything you pursued, but I think we're all glad that you dropped chemistry and started with music. I'm glad. Gloria, how about you?
Okay, I have so much in common with their stories. I also sang before I talked. My mother says the only way she could get a diaper on me was to sing to me. And I would just melt and stare into her face. I also come from a musical family. My father, there was a classical violinist, a classical pianist. My grandmother was a poet on my father's side. My dad was the military guy. He was the only one that wasn't a musician, but I bet he could have been. And then my mom won a contest to be Shirley Temple's double when she was 6 years old. They were going to fly her to Hollywood, and she was going to dub the movies in Spanish for Deanna Durbin, Shirley Temple. A lot of you don't know who these people are, but you should, because they're classic. She was the diva of the family, my mom. So she was always singing and dancing around the house. And when we came to Miami, I was 18 months old, and we had to move into a tiny apartment, her and me. My dad went to Bay of Pigs. He was a political prisoner for 2 years. So she kind of created a commune of women in these little apartments where we lived. And my grandmother would smuggle my mom's records out of Cuba and send them in baby food boxes to me, because I would only eat mango baby food. They didn't have it in Miami at that time. So a pilot would show up at the door with this box of baby food and records, my mom's records. So I grew up listening to Nat King Cole, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Trio Los Panchos, Celia Cruz, Olga Guillot, Perez Prado. These amazing musicians on both sides, both from Cuba and from here. That's why the Standards was something that I absolutely loved. And in fact, in this very room, we recorded a special called The Standards of an album that I did celebrating that music, because it was the first music that touched my soul. And I'm kind of like my dad. I don't like being the center of attention. Go figure, I picked quite the career for that. But my mom was an amazing presence. And my grandmother was a stage mother who had tried to get my mother into show business and then decided she wanted to get me into show business. She started her own restaurant illegally in her house back in 1960. 66. And she would have all these people that would come and then she'd have me perform, play for them, sing, play my guitar. And I would tell her, Abuela, this isn't for me. Like, I'm not gonna do this. She goes, I hope you're smart enough the day that it lands in your lap to know that the only way you're gonna be happy in your life is to share your gift. Because you were given a gift like your mom and like so many people in your family, and you're not gonna be happy if you don't share it. So of course, I went to the University of Miami and studied psychology and communication with a French mind. I didn't even minor in music, I was insanity. But you know, first generation immigrant, you have to get a job. And it would have been insane for me to tell my mom, I'm gonna do this. But singing was my catharsis, my escape, the way that I would emote. My dad came back from the Olympics, went to join the US Army, went to Vietnam, came back ill. And I remember music being my lifeline. I would lock myself in my room. I cared for him once I came from school because we could only afford the nurse during the day. And my music was how I left that room, how I left that house, how I was able to stay strong for my mom and you know, not show the cracks in the armor. I would just sing and cry and learn everybody's music and learn the chords on my guitar and then teach them to my guitar teacher because he wasn't listening to pop music. But then Emilio at 17, he had his own band, Miami Latin Boys, and we ran into each other at a mutual friend's house. We were trying to get a little show together for one night. And he gave us tips because he had this famous orchestra already that had played for the mayor. And yeah, big deal, Miami Latin Boys. So I went to a wedding of one of my dad's army buddy's daughter, who I grew up with, and there was this band playing, and I look at him and I go, I know that guy, wait a minute. We kind of ran into each other in the door and he goes, you're that girl that sang that night. I go, yeah. He goes, oh, why don't you sit in with the band, do a couple of songs? So my mom, yeah, sing. Of course, he didn't know that I used to sing for them as a kid, and I got this standing ovation. When I did these 2 songs, he got impressed. He invited me to join the band that day. I told him that I couldn't. And then he tracked me down 2 weeks later and asked me, he goes, look, I work full time, you don't have to quit school. I go, I have school and 2 jobs right now. And he goes, oh, but we only do it on weekends and nights. I promise I'll work around your schedule. And then I really wanted to do it, and my grandma said, remember what I told you? And my mom had a conniption, and then, which made me want to do it even more. And that's how I ended up professionally doing music. But I mean, music has been a part of my life at these 80s from the moment I could remember anything.
That's absolutely incredible.